everyone. Welcome to Elevate, your local resource for connecting with wellness experts and businesses along the Grand Strand. I'm Rachel, health and life coach, and this is my friend and co-host, Nicole Huckabee. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Rachel. As a former news anchor on the Grand Strand, I'm beyond excited to be on this journey with you. So if you're curious about our local resources for holistic wellness living, Elevate Podcast is your go-to resource.
On this episode of Elevate,
I'm not a superhero, but I would like to put on my little cape and be like, dun da da dun, good food is here. You can eat it and you can feel good and you don't have to feel guilty.
Today on the show, I'm thrilled to welcome Jordan Hyde, owner and executive chef of Lekker Eats, a bold and vibrant culinary concept rooted in passion, purpose, and global inspiration. Jordan is a proud Myrtle Beach native whose journey into the kitchen was shaped by a life-changing diagnosis of type 1 diabetes. But instead of seeing it as a setback, she turned it into fuel for a mission to explore how food can be both healing and exciting. Before launching Lekker Eats, Jordan spent years as a world-traveling sous chef aboard private yachts, cooking in some of the most remote and exotic places around the globe. Those experiences now show up in her food, an incredible fusion of global flavors, health-conscious ingredients, and creative twists that reflect both her travels and her personal wellness journey. At Lekker Eats, Jordan is all about intention, flavor, and storytelling through food. And today, she's sharing that story with us. Let's dive in.
we are so grateful to have you here with us and to share your story and share what you really bring to the Grand Strand community through Lekker Eats. I mean, I love walking in there to begin with. Wonderful environment and the food is exceptional. But if we can start in a traditional sense and talk about your journey to your culinary experience and how you arrived at where you are today. Tell us a little bit about that. You
Yeah,
have such a rich
absolutely.
story to share.
It's a wild story. But yeah, so I was just working on private yachts, traveling the world as one does. Out of college, everyone was picking where they wanted to go live and jobs. And I thought that was crazy. How can you just all of a sudden pick where you want to settle down in when I hadn't seen the world yet? So I decided to sell my car, buy a one-way ticket to Fort Lauderdale, and I joined yachting, which was a crazy cool industry to join, getting paid to travel the world and see all these remote places. It was really a treat. And then when I was in Italy working on a charter boat, I was hospitalized and diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So my life flipped upside down. I had to relearn how to live my life. I'm fully insulin dependent now, so I had to learn how to carb count so I could every time I take in a carb, I have to know exactly how much insulin to give myself. And, too much insulin, you'll go into a coma. Not enough insulin, you'll go into a coma. So it's kind of like this day-to-day battle of just trying to find a good balance and juggling, trying to stay alive and also do all the other human things. But with that, I started relearning how to live and I put myself in some situations. I started traveling a bit more a few months after I was diagnosed to kind of see what life was like now with diabetes in tow. And I went back to work as a stewardess. And when I did that, I was no longer in control of the food that I was eating on the boat. And that made my management much more difficult. So, in my mind, the way that it worked was if I was going to go back to the yachts, I needed to be the chef so I could be in charge of my food. And the only way to do that was to go to culinary school because I had no culinary background at all, other than the fact that I just really loved food. And I've always been a rather healthy eater. My grandy would always say that if I was grumpy when I was younger, she'd give me a head of broccoli and I would be fine, which is totally true. I still love it to this day. So I think it gave food more of a purpose for me. And as I learned, I went to a culinary school in Cape Town, South Africa. And it was like a 3-year course put into 1 year where I did French patisserie and French hot kitchen. So I did the traditional culinary school, nothing to do with health. And as I started working on the boats, crew is relatively healthy. Crew work a lot of hours, long days. Everyone's pretty athletic. And so everyone wanted to eat better. So I not only was making healthy food for myself, but it was fun because everyone wanted that kind of food. So it really gave me a creative outlet where I was able to start thinking about how am I not only fueling myself, but how am I fueling others? So that was wonderful. And then I came home right before COVID because my grandmother, my grandy, got sick. And I was doing my yoga teacher training at Living Yoga Wellness. And I was spending a lot of time in the studio. So I started selling lunches to the ladies in my yoga teacher training class. They were just like buying my couscous salad, basically, and they started buying the food. And so I posted on my private Instagram story, like, anyone in Myrtle wants some food prep? Like, this are the salads and the treats that I have. And I believe it was like 80 people like voted yes. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, I didn't expect anyone to actually respond to it. I didn't have a very active Instagram. And then so I started doing pickups once a week out of my sister's garage. So I would go to my sister's on a Sunday and cook food, and then people would come put it in bags and people would come pick it up and pay me. And I was like, this is cool. And so I was starting to think about Lacka Eats. Lacka Eats didn't have like quite a name yet because I still intended to go back on the yachts. So I was kind of just making a little money while I was home just to pass the time, because why not?
Yeah,
And
why not?
oh, why not? And I'm not very good at sitting still. So I had to give myself something to
Jordan,
do.
we picked up on that.
Hmm.
Doesn't take long. So yeah, so then COVID happened and I was quarantining at my parents' house because at this point I still wasn't living here. I didn't have my own place here. And traveling ceased to exist in the world. And I was seeing my friends on boats tied up on docks in places where they weren't allowed to leave. They couldn't go home. Traveling was just all of a sudden mayhem. And so I made the decision that I was going to stay home. I was just didn't think that going back, all of that extra stuff was going to be fun anymore. And so I think it was kind of catapulted me in a direction of just like, it's time. It's time to stay home. You've been running for so long. I wasn't running away. I was just really enjoying my life and getting experiences that I couldn't get here. And thank goodness I did, because all the experiences I did led me to everything I do at Lacka Eats. And so as soon as we were in quarantine, I started dreaming up Lacka and started making a plan for when the world was moving again, what we can do. And I started doing deliveries. I was working with Randy Remedio with A Difference in Dining. She was letting me work for her catering company. And then 2 days of the week, she was letting me use her kitchen to cook my food out of. And I was living in an apartment at that time. After quarantine, got an apartment, made my second bedroom the dry store, had all of my kitchen equipment, all of my dry ingredients, all my packaging, anything and everything I needed was in that room. And I would unload my car at 4:30. Well, I'd load my car at 4:30 in the morning, drive to the kitchen, unload, cook all day, clean down, package, load my car back up, and then I would go do deliveries. And I did about 17 deliveries like that. And then I finally was like, this is crazy. I'm tired. There's got to be a better way. And so my dad so graciously, I did that all summer. And then the water park, Myrtle Waves, was closed for the off season and they have a DHEC approved kitchen. So I got my little Lacka Eats website going and became like a real LLC. And I started doing cooking out of the funnel cake kitchen at Myrtle Waves. And then I hired my first little delivery driver and Cassidy, and she started delivering the food. And because the orders were getting more and more, there was more food to be cooked. And then eventually, the water park had to get ready for the season, so I got the boot. And luckily, at that time, Sabaya, the Japanese restaurant, which is over in St. James Square, was closing and they were trying to sell their location. So I went to the bank, got out a loan, don't know what I was doing, and I just bought a Japanese restaurant and spent the next 2 months just not on my own. I had a lot of heavy hands. My dad's maintenance crew was a huge part in helping me get everything done. And then we opened our little Lacka Eats first location, which was like market style, grab and go coffee and smoothies. So it was so much smaller scale than what we're doing now. But we did that for 2.5 years. And then Croissants was closing, and people were asking me for more seats and more sit sit down food. So it just seemed like everything just kind of fell hand in hand. I sold Little Lacka to the arepa spot, Marvin, who was a small business that was selling arepas at the farmers markets. And he was looking for his first location. And so it seemed like the perfect place for him to fall into. And croissants, obviously, we know they have big things going with Hook and Barrel and croissants at their other locations. So I felt like everyone was kind of like on their path, and we all just like coincided pretty well together on where we were all going. And then I spent a whole summer renovating croissants. And now in September, Big Lacka will have been open for 2 years. So you would have never thought that being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes would have led me here.
Quite the
That is
journey, quite the
absolutely
story.
incredible.
Yes.
I need to take a pause here for a minute because you have such an adventurous and fascinating story. It's
Thank
amazing.
you. I was trying to do a short version. It's really hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to tell the story when shorten it when each like individual like piece of it is so important because I truly never dreamed of waking up one day and having an uncurable disease. And then also on top of that, I never thought I would stop traveling when I did. And on top of that, truly never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be owning and operating and an executive chef of a healthy food restaurant in Myrtle Beach. And I feel like it's been fun because I grew up here. So when I was in high school, we had Bay Naturals. When Bay Naturals was at the 30 Food Lion location, and then Kind Belly was across from where Little Lacka was in St. James Place. So I remember the places I used to eat, and they're still here, which is so special also. But it's been fun to bring something that I needed, I've always wanted. And it's not just about me, but there is a community of people who also not just want, but need food that Lacka serves. And so I think the purpose started with focusing on my own health, but my drive has truly come from knowing that type 1 diabetes isn't the only thing that people need to focus on food. It's celiacs, it's vegan, it's vegetarian. There's so many different diets and allergies and things that it's so important for people to have a safe place to go and eat. And so where Lacka is my safe space, I feel like I have been given a platform to give others a safe space to come and eat. And for me, it means more to me that they can eat there than anything because I can always cook for myself in my own kitchen, you know. But to be able to cook for others, I mean, it truly is a blessing.
It is a blessing. You've taken something that could have been, that was life changing, that some may see as just the most horrible thing in the world, your type 1 diabetes, and you've turned it into something positive for others to see that what you eat, what you do, you can manage this uncurable disease, which is incredible. It's just a true testimony to who you are and to what you want to do for your community. Not a lot of people would do what you've done, Jordan. And so cheers to you. We can, lift you up for what you've done. I'm curious
Thank
to
you.
know, how did you come to the realization? What happened to you physically to lead you to know that you had type 1 diabetes? Because I know there are signs, there are symptoms, there are things that change in your body. For those of us that don't know what that's like, share that experience with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that I didn't Google my symptoms because I've always said like Google's not a doctor. So when all of this was happening to me, I did not Google, but my crewmates did, and they were too scared to say something to me. So I started I was exhausted. Like I am such an energetic person naturally, and I felt like I had bricks tied to my body, not just my feet, but my body. And every day I was working, I was like, why am I so exhausted? And then had constant cotton mouth, and I was drinking like 15 to 20 bottles of water a day and still had immediate cotton mouth. And I was urinating endlessly. Obviously, I was drinking 15 to 20 bottles of water a day, but I couldn't even like hold my bladder. It was uncontrollable. There was just all these things. It felt like my body was just shutting down. And I finally had a moment where I went to my captain, felt there was actually a sugar buildup in my lower abdomen, and I was like, this something's not right, like Captain. I'm telling you, like something's wrong. And he said I could. We had just left Capri, Italy, And he said, well, we can turn around and go back to Capri, or you can get off the boat when the guests, because we had guests on board also. We had the owners of the boat on board. And he said, or you can wait till tomorrow, and when the guests go to shore, you can ride into shore with them, and we'll have a translator meet you, and they'll take you to the hospital. And I was like, I think that's a good idea. Nobody spoke English in my hospital either. So I remember we were in between, I was on day 65, like no days off, like working 14 to 16 hours a day. And I remember calling my family and my mom answered. I was pretty sure I was FaceTiming them, and I just started crying. I was like, I'm so tired. Like something's not right with me. Like I just know. And I knew I was missing them, and I knew I was working a lot. My mom was like, it's the whole family was together as well. And so she was like, I think you're just upset. And I was like, I definitely am upset. I miss home, but it's just something's not right. And sure enough, they did a bunch of tests. I was such a bad sugar buildup in me and everything. And when I got to the hospital, I was with Galena was my translator, and nobody spoke English in the hospital. And so they were doing all these tests on me, and then it was kind of invasive. I was feeling just like really, really beat. And so I asked her if I could go to the vending machine to get just some M&Ms because like it reminded me of home. So as I'm sitting there eating these M&Ms, they like take my finger and prick my finger, and there's probably like six Italian doctors surrounding me, and all just start like shouting in Italian. Someone rips the M&Ms out of my hands. Mind you, my blood sugar was like over 800. And it's supposed to be like between 70 and 130.
Oh my heavens.
So my blood sugar had been running so high. They were completely shocked that I was not in a diabetic coma. They checked my A1C. My A1C was like over 15. So I had been running with type 1 diabetes for a month or so, a couple weeks. And there was no way for me to know that. There was absolutely my white blood cells attacked my beta cells and damaged my pancreas. And so, it's not an immune disease. There's no way I could have known it was coming. There is no way I could have prevented it either. Again, I've always been super athletic,
Right.
eat super healthy. Like for anyone to be diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I didn't think it would be me because also type 1 is juvenile diabetes. So I got it 24, just shy of my 25th birthday. So when I was sitting in the hospital, all they said to me was diabetes. So I'm researching and I was like, well, you know what? I have been putting a lot of like brown sugar in my coffee, and I had a few bowls of cereal on late night. So maybe I've done this to myself. So I was sitting in the hospital room because, again, they weren't able to like really translate to me what was going on other than saying like diabetes, no sugar. Meanwhile, they were feeding me pasta and bread for my lunches and dinners. So that made no sense to me either.
Right.
Knowing what I know now, I'm like, well, that seems
Yeah.
like we should have gone on a low carb diet
Yeah.
here, guys.
Gosh.
So basically my body all but betrayed me, and yeah, it was just very unexpected, but also I think it was like the best thing that could have happened to me. And I know that sounds crazy, and if my family hears this, they're going to say, Jordan, we know how much you hate it, and I truly do. It's just such a pain all the time. The management is 24/7, 365. I have my little gadgets on me all the time. I have to be so conscious before I do anything, while I'm doing anything. There's just another level of extra to everything that I do. But I just feel like it gave me purpose, and I feel like it's given me not a will to live, more of just a way to appreciate life and like every little thing that I get to do. And I feel like I take advantage of opportunities even more than I did before, just because I know how much extra I have to give to make sure that things succeed or go right. There's just a lot more going on in the back end of my brain at all times.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that because I think it's important for people to understand what it actually is like to be a diabetic and some of the things that you would experience. So our listeners now may be going, I feel that way. I understand how, my friend feels or my brother or sister feels. And I love the fact that you've taken that and now you have a thriving business that takes care of people like you and people that have various needs in their diets. So, I think that's great that you saw that as a purpose and not a reason to be down, but to lift yourself and others up as well. So kudos
Mm.
to you.
Thank you. It was actually really crazy. Before I was diagnosed, two charters before, we had a family come on, and there was a 13-year-old boy with type 1 diabetes. And I was the service steward at the time, and they had to order like an absurd amount of juice boxes. And we're on a boat. Obviously, it's a yacht, but there's still very tight quarters. We're a charter yacht, so we had a lot going on. And I had to figure out where the heck I was going to put all these juice boxes. And I was so frustrated. Why did we have to have all these juice boxes? And the girls who did service down the cabins, housekeeping, they were every day talking about, God, it's like a hospital down here, talking about all the stuff that they were cleaning out of the trash cans and all the diabetes supplies that were laying around. And like, I had no idea. They had no idea. And just a few weeks later, I came to know that like what I was now going to live with was what that 13-year-old boy had been living with like his entire life. And it made me really sad because I got to go to school, I got to go to college, I got to travel, I got to live like my whole adolescent life like freely. And as easy as I may make it seem, like it really is hard knowing that it's like juvenile diabetes. Like there's children, like babies born with it, and there's parents who have to learn how to manage their child's diabetes without any physical cues because they don't have the disease. It is truly, truly like a detrimental disease that can really affect parents, it affects children's, it affects siblings. The mental health toll that it can take is insane. And for me, being a strong-minded at that time 25-year-old, like I was like, all right, we're gonna figure this out. But also in the back of my mind, all I can like ever really think about when I go to bed at night is all the kids that are doing what I'm doing with just being kids, Imagine going through puberty and also having to deal with like being bullied at school because you have like your insulin pump on, or kids that won't wear insulin pumps because they're embarrassed, and they're life-saving devices. The weight of type 1 diabetes it truly is so heavy. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that because they also get confused in type 1 and type 2 diabetes because they have the same name. So are they the same? And they're just not the same.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of stigma around just the word diabetes. And I think that if people were a little bit more educated, that they'd be a little bit kinder about it.
Mm.
So, sorry
Yeah.
to cry.
Jordan. Well said. Yeah.
No, it's a very emotional journey. And you said something earlier too that I don't know that is common knowledge that type 1 diabetes is autoimmune. And
Hmm.
autoimmune disorders and disease is absolutely debilitating, emotional, like you have shared, and it doesn't prepare you. And like you said, you're an individual that was otherwise healthy and
Hmm.
you felt like your body betrayed you. Like of all the individuals to have this happen, right? And
Right.
then you fast forward, and I love how you shared earlier that you didn't really let it define you. It was limiting moment, right? It
Hmm.
has all these limitations, but what a blessing to, pay it forward and help your immediate community around you have a safe place to come and eat. I'm one of them. When I walk into your restaurant, I can take a breath of fresh air because I know that the food that I'm about to put in my body is not going to cause a flare, Jordan. And those flare ups, you just don't know what they feel like unless you've had it before.
Hmm.
It affects your whole family, right? It affects and from the outside looking in, we look like otherwise healthy individuals, right? So
Oh,
with that
yeah.
being said, what is something that you might want to share with your community from the young children to the families who have type 1 diabetes? That are feeling overwhelmed. They're not where you are right now with being able to manage it with joy. That doesn't mean you're always happy about it, but you found a way to do it. Like, what can you share with them personally? Because that's not the autoimmune disorder that I have. It's very different. But all the same,
Absolutely.
like, what can you share with them? Where to start, how to manage it? Just want something small to give them that encouragement because you are an inspiration.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the most like cliche thing to say is you're not alone. One thing that I grasped onto super quickly was social media. I made a like a type 1 diabetes like Instagram page and like a little blog that I wrote for a while that kept me going like the first few months of my diagnosis. And in using that Instagram, I connected to other diabetics because I think the biggest thing with it is it is so isolating. You can, even speaking to you guys, I'm probably throwing around some terminology that y'all are like, yeah, I understand, but probably not as much as if a type 1 diabetic were to hear. And I've explained things to my family. My husband knows to always pack the juice boxes. And, my nieces and my nephews know that we don't touch that. That's Sissy's medicine. And, I can explain things to you guys and I can explain things to my family, but it truly is so isolating because no one truly understands the weight of it every day. And it's not just the mental weight, but it's the physical weight. It's the low blood sugars, it's the high blood sugars, it's the pumps beeping all night long and you don't get sleep or you have to wake up and correct a low. There's so much that you're just like taking on by yourself. That learning that you're not alone is like number one, because there's a community of people on Instagram, there's a community of people on so many different platforms, that are so boldly and bravely showing their lives with type 1 diabetes as well. And as soon as I started posting on there and started following people, people started reaching out to me for advice. And I was reaching out to other people, seeing the different technology they were using. And, oh, well, what did you think about this? And all of a sudden, I made type 1 diabetic friends from all over the country and even all over the world. When I was living in South Africa, something happened with my insulin and I couldn't get any. They wouldn't, where I was at the time, they wouldn't let me just get it from the pharmacy. And I didn't have a prescription and it was a big mess. And I posted on my Butt First Insulin, it's called Butt First Insulin. I posted on my Butt First Insulin account and a girl from South Africa had been following me and she met me and gave me the insulin that I needed to get me through until I could see the doctor. And
Wow.
so, I mean, how else would that have happened had I not had that online community? So I think that checking your resources, I know that there are different resources locally that you can go to outside. Obviously, doctors and diabetes educators are extremely important and incredibly important, but this is like a day to day. You can't see a doctor for your day to day. So I think that finding a community, using the sources that you can, and not being ashamed to talk about it. Because if you don't hear it being spoken about, then you should be the one that speaks up because there's other people out there that need to hear what everyone has to say. Everyone has a voice. And I think that the biggest thing is just knowing you're not alone because it is, if you take it on by yourself, it's going to be so hard and it's
Yeah.
not going to be a fun journey. And the reason I am where I am is because I grasped onto every last word, every last blog, every last reel, TikTok, anything from anyone else living, just seeing that there is hope. And I put myself in a lot of crazy situations when I was first diagnosed because I was like, I need to see if I can just like live. I don't need to know that I can get up, go to work, go home, clock in, clock out. I need to know that like I can go out on the boat still. I need to know that I can still go camping. I need to know that I can go run a Spartan race. I need to know that I am not defined by my disease, but I will define who I am and use my disease as a motivator. And so once I proved to myself that life just needed I needed to slow down a little bit more and plan a little bit better, that I could truly do anything that I wanted to do. You just have to think a little bit
That's
and not
powerful.
panic when things go or go wild.
Yeah,
There's
that's
always some.
very powerful. I love how you talk about not being alone and the sense of community, and you translate that into your business. You've created a community at Lekker Eats to embrace everyone's needs and walks in life. Talk about that, how you transform that into healthy foods and nutrition
Mm.
at Lekker.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, I don't know many people who their faces don't light up when they have a good plate of food in front of them. Like, who doesn't get excited when they have yummy food, you know? I mean, I
So
know
true.
personally that I will do a happy dance at the table, the first bite of good food, Good conversation, good community conversation, and a plate of good food is like the key to success in my eyes, like the key to happiness. So when I was planning everything with Laka, I was thinking, all right, what can we do to make food fun for everyone? It wasn't about just putting food on a plate and saying, okay, we have a vegan dish. Like, here you go. Here's your cucumber, tomato, and lettuce. Like, check the box of having that name on the menu. It was about how can we make food fun for people who are scared to eat, people who think that making food is a daunting task. How can we make food fun for those who have been told they can't enjoy food?
Mm.
And so with all of the menu creations that we have, it has come down to, okay, it's got to look pretty, obviously. Everyone eats with their eyes. So, bright and colorful food. And it's not about dye, it is about natural food. You want to eat good and you want to feel good. So
Mhm.
when I'm making these dishes, I'm thinking, okay, do we have now? I am not a nutritionist. I have no nutrition background. I count carbs for myself because of diabetes, and I pay attention to how I feel when I eat. So I can't give anyone like a specific diet plan or anything like that. But my biggest thing if I am giving advice is that I pay attention to how food makes me feel. So when I am creating these menu items and recipes, I'm focusing on making sure we have clean ingredients going in there. We have good balances of flavor, good balances of healthy fats, carbs, nutrition, protein, like all the things I'm paying attention to. There's like just a little checklist. I'm like, all right, bright colors, no dyes, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, quinoa, gluten free, all the things. And I just put all that together to try to make something as flavorful as possible. And it's not about having a veggie burger that breaks apart and is like, all right, we put this in it and it's gone. It's like, okay, no. Now there's a science to the food. It's how are we don't have egg, we don't have flour. How are we making this gluten free, vegan burger hold together? Then I've learned about flax meal eggs, and there's all these different fun alternatives that made cooking fun for me as well, because I had to learn I'm not a vegan at all, and I'm also not gluten free. So for me, I had to look at the food I was making, not just to check off boxes, but I wanted it to be food that I wanted to eat as well. I didn't want it to say gluten free, vegan, okay, only gluten free and vegan people are going to like this. No, I was making food that everyone was going to like, but ticked off boxes for everyone. And that is sometimes very challenging, but it makes it more fun for me because then I see the faces of people who need that food light up, but then somehow other people order that food, not realizing what they order. And they're like, this is the best thing I've ever had. I'm like,
Right.
would you imagine
Yeah.
no refined sugars, gluten
Yeah.
free, and vegan? And they're like, no, 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 no,
Right.
no. And it's this stigma of healthy food has become this weird stigma of, no, that's healthy. I don't want it, which is a little confusing to me because healthy food does not mean not yummy food. Healthy food just means it's better for your body and better for your mind and just better for your health in general. So I don't know where we have gone off the path of thinking that healthy food is
That is
so.
weird. That's very
So
weird.
true. It is so true. I think that, 20 years ago, healthy food tasted like cardboard. We didn't have the options that we have now. And I don't know if that's part of the stigma or people are just overwhelmed with trying to think or thinking that the way that they used to eat might not
Mm,
be the best for their body now. You said something that resonates with me so much, and it was paying attention. We need to pay attention to how we feel when we
mm,
eat. That's what you personally are doing.
yes.
And when we start feeling like there's something off and we go to the
Mm,
doctor or we go to our functional medicine doctor and all the things, we get the blood work done, autoimmune, type 1 diabetes, lupus, Hashimoto's, one of the first things that we do is we kind of break down our diet a little bit, take out the
mm,
anti-inflammatory foods. And when you start putting them back in your diet, what is it that we are supposed to do? We don't check the box off to say we're a type of eater, we're on this specific diet. We say, how do we feel? How is our
mhm,
body feeling when we put gluten in it?
mhm,
Or and some of us can eat gluten.
mhm,
How does our body feel with dairy? And it's a very powerful shift, I think, for us to take pause and allow our bodies to talk to us.
Absolutely. And what's super interesting as well is it goes along with like how all of a sudden healthy food has become undesirable food, but also gluten intolerances and gluten allergies are
Mhm.
very serious for those who have those gluten intolerance and allergies. But it's really interesting to me because gluten's not bad for you. If you don't have an intolerance or you don't have celiacs or an allergy, like, gluten will not harm you. And it is interesting to me that people who are on these strict diets that choose diets because they want to be skinny, let's say, like they'll go gluten free completely because they think that's how they're going to lose weight. And it really is interesting because it's not going to help you lose weight. There is a wheat deficit that is going on here for people whose bodies truly react, and it takes away the importance for those for working in the kitchen. I have learned a lot of cooks are very negligent with the gluten cross contamination because they see it as someone using it as a diet versus an actual health.
Interesting.
Wow, that's interesting, Jordan. Never would have
Yes.
thought that.
So, because there's so many people that come in and are like, oh, I want it gluten free. And then a server will say, do you have a gluten allergy? And we always ask
Ah,
that because in the Lacka kitchen, we're very, very conscious with cross contamination. But if we know if there is a shellfish allergy, if we know that there is any kind of allergy, not just gluten, we go above and beyond to sanitize everything before it even gets used. Everything's always sanitary, but to make sure that there is that 0% chance of contamination. And then you'll have people say, "Oh, no, 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 I don't have an allergy, just but I want the gluten-free bread." So, or no, 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 I'm not allergic to dairy. I just don't want the cheese, you know? So there's so many different diets that go around that can overshadow the actual seriousness of what a gluten intolerance is.
You know what? In
that's
listening
interesting.
to you, I think part of the reason people push off the idea of eating healthy is because they have the mindset that you just shared. They're doing it for weight loss. They don't have an allergy, but I don't want to eat gluten. Or they don't have an allergy, but I don't want the cheese. And what happens is they don't enjoy the food that they're able to eat and nourish their body to have the energy that they
Mhm.
could potentially receive from it, because that's what food is. Food is energy for us to go out and like your story started and continues, to live life, right? And
Exactly.
when you figure out what your body is needing and you can provide it in this fun way that you do for our community with beautiful colors and taste. But by the way, your food is absolutely amazing. You make the best burger ever. My
Thank you.
husband and I come in, we share that burger, and you make me so happy when I come to your restaurant. It really
Thank
is a
you.
testament to like, oh, my body's gonna feel so good. I'm gonna have some energy after this. But
Yeah,
I
and,
think it
and
goes
that's
back to that. Yeah.
that's the thing is like if when you eat after you leave Lacka's lunch, like you can go back to work and you're not just like, I gotta go back to work. I'm so full. It's like, okay, I've got to knock out the rest of my day. Like, let's go. And you can feel good to be able to do that. So going back to what you were talking about, like that eat good, feel good is so important. Paying attention to how your body is responding to food, how you feel, not just an hour after you've eaten something, but like a couple hours after. How do you feel the next morning after a full night's rest? And like, what did you eat for dinner? How do those dots all connect? And when you start paying attention to what you're eating and how you're feeling, I mean, I know I personally have like certain things that on days when I have a lot going on, I'm like, sometimes I'm really bad about like making sure I'm eating all the things. But on the days where I'm like, okay, I know that I have a lot to do today, my food schedule will be very regimented because I know that like I need that fuel, not just for my body to get through, but for my brain to get through. So if you're feeding yourself garbage, you're going to feel like garbage.
Mhm.
And I personally do not like feeling like garbage. I have a lot to do and I want to feel good while I'm doing it. And I don't want to be distracted or tired. I want to be able to focus and get my work done and put my best foot forward. So, with that, the first thing that it is making sure that I'm fueling myself properly to do
I
that.
love that. I do want to add this element. I know mental health is something that's important for you to talk about, Jordan. And when you talk about people coming in and not wanting certain things on their food, I think our society society has led us to worry so much about how we look that oftentimes we deny ourselves things because we fear we're not going to look the best, or if this is not going to be good for us. And I'm worried about my weight. I mean, I'll just speak personally to that. Being on TV for so long, always
Mhm.
worried about being in the public. At my age now, I've gone through menopause and I've put on weight, and I still struggle with that later in life of putting on weight. Even though I know my body's changing, my mind really can't take that in. I still
Mhm.
feel like I'm supposed to look like I did in my,
Mhm.
and I do think that people struggle with their food that way. So I appreciate that you're trying to share with people, love your body, nourish your body, and it will work better for you. But I will say that it is hard for people to think that way sometimes because we are so caught, and I say
Mhm.
I've done it. We are so caught
Absolutely.
up in worrying if I eat that, I'm going to blow up like a big balloon. And so the mental health thing is really something that is important to try to change the message, get the message out there that when you do eat foods like you serve at LACA, you will feel better and you will look better and embrace who you are. I think that's something that I just wanted to bring to the table,
Yeah.
to know that what you're sharing at your table at the restaurant will help us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we live in a time, especially with social media, and you have access to everyone's lives. Everyone's lives look perfect online. I'm struggling with it being a new mom. I see all these moms doing these cards and doing this and doing that. And
Ugh.
I'm like, who do you have time in the day for that? I'm out here trying to run a restaurant. I got a baby. I'm trying to get my body back to where I feel better because going through postpartum body
Oh yeah.
imaging is wild. Dealing with all my diabetes, I feel like mental health, it's not a good time in our world to like it's not geared towards making mental health better. There's a lot of things that you think are it's so fun to watch how everyone's living. It's so fun to see everyone's outfits and clothes and what they're get ready with me, what makeup they're using, this, that, and the other. I think that it's like we just have an overload of information right now that we just don't need. I would love to go back to the 90s when I was growing up and like the phone we had was glued to the wall and like
Yeah.
and that was it.
You actually remember that, girl?
Yes, and just go outside and like touch grass, honestly, like kindly, saying that very kindly. Because body comparison, any kind, it's just the thief of joy. Any
Yes.
kind of
Mhm.
comparison is truly a thief of joy, and I struggle with it myself, and I just try to like go by how I'm feeling. Like, am I having a rough day? I truly will take my child and I will go outside for a walk with my husband. And because it's so easy to be so down on yourself. But what's so important to me is how can I expect anyone to listen to me or anyone to like love me and appreciate me if I don't love and appreciate myself first? So that is a mindset that I always have, that I have to have confidence in myself before anyone else can have confidence in me. And so, I think that being able to enjoy food, I think that when the diets say don't eat that, don't eat that, don't eat that, it takes away joy. Food is
Yes.
so fun.
Yes.
And it's not just about the food, it's the people that sit at your table that you get to have conversations with and the places you can go to eat. Food takes you so many different avenues. And I think that when people start having bad mental health that is correlated with food, like I'm not a superhero, but I would like to put on my little cape and be like, dun 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 dun, good food is here. You can eat it and you can feel good and you don't have to feel guilty. You should smile and enjoy it and not feel crummy about yourself. So, and I feel like there's so many things out there that you can eat that will make you feel like that. So to be able to provide food where people take a deep breath and just say, let's eat. So
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. And we should get you the cape, maybe create a little caricature for you. I love it.
Yes,
The
I think that's
the
exactly what we're gonna do,
superfood
Nikki.
hero.
The next time we come in to have our breakfast date, Nikki, we are coming in with the cape.
Our cape,
Oh my god.
the superfood heroes.
I love
Hashtag
it.
use that superfood hero, Jordan.
I love it. I love it.
What have I done?
But you're amazing. I look at you and I see nothing but pure beauty, pure
Thank you.
joy, and using difficult circumstances to improve the lives of others. And I know it's not always easy for you because it's not always as good as it looks on social media, right?
Mhm.
But you're willing to say that out loud, and we're willing to come to this table here at Elevate and hopefully help others realize that they can do it too. Every day is not going to be easy, but you can get through your day. And there are ways to have a healthier, happy life. And that is by fueling your body with good things and mentally
Absolutely.
filling your mind with good things and taking those walks and being present and not letting the day go by without realizing you have good people around you and you have good places to go and fellowship and come to the table at LACA.
Not lacquer. It's always lacquer to be
Yeah.
lacquer.
You got
Jordan,
it.
go ahead, Nikki.
I was just say we have to need to tell people how you came up with the name before we leave. Were
Yeah,
you
that's
just thinking
exactly
that,
what was
Rachel?
telepathy here. I was thinking the same thing. Tell us about the name, Laka.
Yeah, so Laka is the native way in South Africa to say all is good. It's a slang word. So Laka Eats directly translates in Afrikaans to yummy foods. So obviously Laka Eats, yummy foods. But then you'll see there's some, if you've been to the restaurant, you'll see there's a lot of different South African things going on the menu. And so you'll see on our coffee mugs, it says Laka Brew, like Laka Coffee. Laka brew is actually like a term that they say. It's kind of like sick dude, like cool dude. So it says like Laka coffee on there, but really it is a play on words. So yeah, anything could be Laka. The music could be Laka. The weather could be Laka. It's just Laka to be Laka.
Jordan, you're gonna like get this new generation going with some lingo here. We're gonna
I
add
know.
Laka to all the lingo that I'm trying to sort out. So my son's 10 and a half. Yours isn't there yet, so they're gonna have a whole nother language for you to
Oh
figure
no.
out. But I'm gonna throw Laka at them.
Yeah, and it's super fun because we also have so many South Africans that live in Myrtle Beach. So I have been able, without actually being in South Africa, because I mean, I am born and raised from Myrtle Beach. I have, like, my culinary experience came from South Africa, and so many of my friends and a lot of my traveling. But it's been very fun to open a place where South Africans come into as well. And I've been able to make a South African community at the beach where I didn't think I was going to see South Africans for a really long time unless I went back there. And so it's been fun to, give them a little piece of home as well. When they come in and they see the menu, they're like, "Oh, they get it." The things, the little bit of the little intentional things that I've done that like half the people have no idea what it is or where it is. It's always fun for me when a South African comes in and they like actually note, "Oh, wait, this is actually really cool." And I'm like, "Thank you. Finally, someone gets it."
I
How
love that.
fun. I love that.
Absolutely.
So I know there's a couple of things that are important to you to discuss, and one of them is big pharma and supply cost. Explain that.
Oh man. Well, I feel like there won't be a cure because how would they make their money? Hot take. Yeah, I think it's been really difficult going through. I was diagnosed 24, just shy of my 25th birthday. So I was on my parents' insurance when I was health insurance when I was diagnosed. And then I quickly was kicked off my parents' insurance and had to find my own with a pre-existing condition. So that was a whole nother ball game of how expensive my health insurance became. And then the cost of insulin and diabetes supplies is just astronomical. And I started when I was traveling. A vial of insulin in America is 300 and something dollars. I go through about 4 to 6 vials of insulin a month.
Mm.
I started doing my research as I was traveling from country to country because you can cross the border to Canada and you can cross the border to Mexico, and insulin for like a vial is like $20. It's something astronomically cheaper. I don't know the exact number that it is as of stamped of today, but it is astronomically cheaper. And I know people who do cross the border to go and buy their insulin because they can't even afford their health insurance to be able to get the insulin more affordable. And so when I was going to countries, I would always go straight to the pharmacy whenever I was able to have a day off. This is how I would spend part of my day off. I would go to a pharmacy and I would say, "Do I need a prescription?" a lot of places you did not need a prescription to get insulin. And then I would say, how much is the insulin and what insulins do you carry? And so it was really interesting to me the places where I walked out with like an entire 1 or 2 month supply for a fraction of the price that I would pay for like a couple days of supplies. So there are other countries that have more access to insulin, that have more affordable accessibility to insulin. And that's incredibly important because there are people in the United States who are quite literally dying because they can't afford health insurance, so they can't afford the insulin. They can't afford the insulin that they're getting even with their health insurance, so they're rationing their insulin, so they're not using as much as they should be. Their sugars are not controlled properly, and they're dying because they don't have the access that they need. Some people will say that having these are a luxury, and I will say absolutely it is a luxury, but it's not just a luxury. It makes diabetes management and control so much tighter and so much better that though it is a luxury because I did live without both of these. I used to finger prick and give injections every single day. I was pricking my finger 15 to 20 times a day, and I was giving myself 8 to 12 injections a day before these. So, yes, it is a luxury, but also it is a necessity
Yeah.
because the mental toll that it takes to do that every single day, the physical toll that it takes, my fingerprints were going away because I was pricking my fingers so much. I feel like with big pharma, it is so frustrating because people are unable to just afford a medicine that just keeps them alive, whereas big pharma just throws pricing on things. The same insulin that I buy today was the very first formula that was sold for $1.
Yeah.
Wow.
So why are we times 300 the price for the same exact medicine? So yeah, I think I mean, that is a whole few hours that we could really
Yeah.
dive deep into that. But I think that on top of the mental health awareness for type 1 diabetics and the health and nutrition, that is like a whole nother avenue of medicine and supply accessibility that living in the United States has is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. It's a whole next layer of concerns for a type 1 diabetic.
I'm
And
sure there are many
overwhelming.
people that feel exactly like you do, and I appreciate you sharing that. We'll have to have you back to talk more about that.
Mhm.
Yes.
To be continued with my Kate.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely, with your cape. 100%.
Mhm.
Jordan, this has been quite the conversation. Learned so much about your journey, and it has been truly a blessing to hear your story, to hear where you started, what you've made from taking something that could have left a lot of people just devastated, and you've turned it into something where you're caring for others through your challenges. And thank you so much for sharing all that you did today and for opening Lekker Eats so we can all feel
Yes.
better about ourselves.
Thank
Right,
you.
Thank
Rachel?
you. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's really been nice to talk to you guys. And thank you for giving me a platform to share about all the things that are important to me as well. So thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. It's a joy, honestly, to connect you with our community and our community to hear more about you, really get to know you and all that you offer does help others elevate their health and wellness journey. They know that they're not alone.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the hope. So no one feels alone. Come to LACA. I'll give you a hug.
Yes.
Do you have one final question, Rachel?
I do. I have my one final burning question, Jordan. What is the one thing in your experience? My goodness, your rich journey getting you here. What is the one thing that our community can start implementing into their day to day to help elevate their health and wellness journey?
I think it's what we touched on a little earlier is pay attention to how food makes you feel.
Mm.
If you feel crummy, maybe don't eat that. If you feel really good, try to find more things that make you feel good. I think that just listen to your body. Don't listen to what everyone else is doing or the trends or the fads. At the end of the day, you're the only one that can feel from your head to your toes how you're feeling. Listen to your body and fuel it with good food
So
from Lekker
good.
Eats.
I love that. I
Yummy
love it.
food.
Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Jordan.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Jordan.
Wait, don't go anywhere. If you are enjoying the Elevate podcast, could you do us 3 favors? Leave us a review, join our newsletter, follow us on social, and wait, it's 4 things. And share the podcast with friends and family.
Absolutely, Rachel. Your reviews help us grow, reach more people, and contribute to our mission of connecting local wellness businesses with individuals seeking their support and services. Please take a moment to leave us a review. To get the most out of your listening experience today, we invite you to join our newsletter. We offer wellness-based resources, recaps, show notes, and links. It's like a culinary garden of wellness resources.
Until next time, have a healthy and blessed day.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. The information provided in the Elevate podcast and associated materials is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. No content should be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment. Reliance on any information provided by Elevate, its host, guest, or contributors is solely at your own risk. We encourage you to consult with a healthcare professional before making any significant changes to your diet, exercise, or wellness routine. Ultimately, your health and well-being are unique to you, and it's important to make informed decisions based on your individual needs.